Thanks very much, Count Corla, and I want to thank deputies for their suggestions and their measured responses, because that this is a matter that I don't think anybody will want to politicise in the weeks and months ahead, and this may well go on for many months. I think the Business Committee made a wide decision in not advocating a full Oireachtas committee at this stage. We have a relatively small number of very competent and very hard-working health officials, the Chief Medical Officer and his team, some people in the HSE and some other senior public health officials. And while this issue has become very, very topical in the last week or two, they've actually been working flat out since January on this. Many of them haven't even taken a weekend off since then. So, we need them to be able to focus on their jobs, also get some rest, and make sure that they don't spend all of their time being held to account and not all of their time doing their job. I know we have to get that balance right, and there does have to be a balance. In terms of what is being done, there have been briefings and will continue to be briefings for party health spokespeople. Indeed, one happened today. There'll be a weekly briefing for all members in the AV room for people who get constituency queries and want a mechanism to funnel those queries to people who can answer them. And they aren't necessarily always politicians. In fact, they're usually not. So there will be a weekly briefing in the AV room for members and their staff to assist with that. Government took the decision this week to establish a cabinet subcommittee, which will meet for the first time on Monday under my chairmanship. The senior officials group behind that has already met twice. A stakeholders group has been established so we can keep in touch and inform employers, unions, civil society and others in advance of decisions being announced. That's already met and will meet again. In addition to that, it has been signalled to the HSE, and indeed I spoke with the CEO of the HSE today to indicate to the HSE that necessary resources would be provided in addition to their budget for this year, over and above their budget for this year, to take whatever actions are necessary to contain COVID-19 in Ireland. So, for example, the decision was taken today to go ahead and open any ICU beds that are closed. As it happens, no patient has yet needed an ICU bed, but it is still a good precaution to prepare for that and to make more isolation facilities available as needed. So the Cabinet Committee is set up, the stakeholders group has already met. The HSE has been given the green light to use additional resources, both staff and financial, as needed, so that we are able to contain COVID-19 for as long as we can. In addition to that, I think it's worth reminding the House that under the Constitution, the government continues until a new one is elected. The term caretaker or acting is not used in the Constitution. The government continues until a new government is elected to replace it, and continues to have full executive authority. But we're minded of the fact that it is a political convention that no major new policy decisions, no major public appointments, and no major financial allocations will be made without consulting the opposition parties, and that will be done. And I'm happy to give exactly that assurance. It may be necessary to come to this House to seek legislative changes. We'll be able to clarify that on Monday. We have very strong legislation around public health. We don't believe at this stage that needs to be enhanced. We may need to enhance legislation around employment and social protections so that people are not disincentivised to self-isolate if they're asked to do so. We'll have clarity on that most likely on Monday after the Cabinet Subcommittee meets, and it is possible for the House to legislate before a new government is elected if we have consensus and agreement around that legislation, and that's the basis on which we'll operate.